Hey guys, I'm Sai and welcome to A.C.E Podcast Nation, the home of our cricket series, The State of Play. This is episode number 7. You can find this show in video format at youtube.com/ACE Podcast Nation and the audio versions at all your favourite podcast and radio platforms. The links to which are all in the description. A.CE Podcast Nation, obviously a home to many different shows and series featuring top guests, expert analysts and more on a variety of subjects from MMA, football, cricket, mental health and lots of other subjects. Give us a follow on social media, the links to which are all in the description below. Of course, subscribe to the YouTube channel. That is the most direct way to support us at the moment. And if you just want to streamline your experience for cricket, you can follow the show on Instagram and Twitter, and it's at stateofplay_. And you also find the social media pages for all the people you can see on your screen now. But with no further ado, let's introduce them all. We have first the usual trio. We have West Indian batsman, Mr. Kieran Powell. How goes it, my friend?
Not bad, how about you?
I'm all right, buddy. All right, buddy. And I got a bit of relief in me today because, like I was just saying then, I've been feeling a bit rough and I had a COVID test. But all good, negative. So I'm starting to feel a little bit better today as well on my chest. Friday, I did the live football show and I was losing my voice halfway through it. And I was like, that's not a good thing for someone who talks constantly. But yeah, he's coming back. And joining us, we have former Glamorgan bowler, Mr. Nye Norman. How goes it, my friend?
Yeah, very good. Thanks, mate. Yourself?
All good, mate. Have you got a different camera this week?
I do. It's I've got a MacBook, so stationary one.
Stationary, so we're not cutting off half your head.
No.
When we had Courtney Walsh and Corey Collymore together, and they kept moving. The two of them kept moving, so the camera was trying to adjust. So it was like cutting off Nye's head in some of the shots, but all good. And joining us is another top guest from the world of cricket. He's none other than a true legend of English cricket, playing for Leicestershire, Lancashire, Bowland in South Africa, Derbyshire, and of course making over 140 appearances for England. It's Mr. Phil Defreitas. How are you, Phil?
Very well, thank you. Very well. Nice to be on the show.
Yeah, cheers. Thanks for joining us. So first of all, Phil, like me and the boys talked about it a bit on the last show because they actually broke the day that we recorded with Courtney Walsh and Corey Collymore, but I wanted to kind of get your thoughts on Dean Jones. Obviously, he passed away recently, and just him as an opponent and as a man, really, and sort of any stories you had about him or just memories, really.
Yeah, Dino and I were very good friends, funny enough, because obviously playing against Dino international-wise, England versus Australia, but also Dino came over for Derbyshire and captained Derbyshire, and made me vice captain to him. And he was an interesting character. I loved Dino. I loved playing with Dino on the cricket field. He played it hard, but he was a terrific leader. Led from the front. Things like on the field would argue, we'd disagree about certain things, and then the next day you come in thinking, oh no, God, I've got to see Dino, whatever, and it's all gone, and it says, all right, mate, we're doing that, and it's all wiped out, and that's what I loved about him. But as a character, he was terrific. He was a great bloke, and it affected me quite a bit, to be fair, because I knew him that well, and it's really, really sad. And, cricket lost a wonderful player and a great bloke as well.
Yeah, it was shocking, just out of the blue, and like I say, tremendous player, and by all accounts, seems to have been a tremendous guy as well. Okay, so what we like to do, Phil, to sort of start us off is so people can get a little feel for you and your tastes and whatnot, is we do what we call the Magnificent Seven, which is just 7 quick questions, and you just give the first answer which springs to mind. Nothing too tricky, he says.
Okay.
Okay. Magnificent Seven for Phil Defreitas. Robin Smith or Alan Lamb?
Alan Lamb.
Ben Stokes, Andrew Flintoff or Ian Botham?
Ian Botham.
Your toughest opponent?
Viv Richards.
How many? He's come up, I think, so much in these Nye, haven't he? He's come up like loads and loads of times. Speaks for the man. The greatest fast bowler of all time?
The great, and sadly, Mark and Marshall.
Favourite grounds to play at?
Lords.
Best roommate?
Ian Botham.
Can imagine that was entertaining. And then finally, laziest trainer?
Phil Tufnell.
2 characters there straight away, which you obviously spent a lot of time with playing. Must have been interesting playing with those guys.
Very much so.
All right then. So before we get into kind of your career and some of your memories and stuff, we're just to talk some cricket generally. I think, well, it was Tuesday today, so we'll start with T20, the Blast Finals day. They did very well to get it on in the first place, Nye, but they did get it on. It was a shortened format. But what did you make of it generally?
Yeah, mate, I watched them all, to be fair. I thought, as I said earlier, the ECB did well to get it on, considering everything, all the rain they had Saturday and Sunday. And I have to say, I thought, well, all 3 games were good. They were all going down to the wire. I think the semi-final between Notts and Lancashire would have gone right to the last ball, and then Dan Christian hit 24 and an over and took the game away from Lancs. And then the final itself, Ben Duckett really sort of put his name back up there, which, he had a little spell with England. I think he went to Bangladesh and India, 2 very, very tough places to tour, which I'm sure the guys will agree with, especially for a batter. And then he did what we know he can do. He won a game for Notts, which he was accused of not doing last year. So big effort by him and good win for Notts.
Yeah, it was a really enjoyable day. Like a Sunday lunchtime, I did not think we were going to be seeing it. I was wondering whether we were going to get the rule, it's a bowl out, I think, isn't it? Even if they can't get it done in the required sort of reserve days and stuff, which I was like, oh, we're going to see that now, but luckily we didn't, and it was enjoyable stuff. Ben Duckett's supremely talented. I felt a bit sorry for him from his England point of view because, like you mentioned, the places where he went to tour were very, very difficult to go, especially for a young batsman coming in. Kieran, did you catch much of the Blast?
I didn't actually know that it was on until after it was over.
Okay.
I was also looking at the highlights.
Okay. Have you played in Bangladesh, Key?
Yeah, I've been to Bangladesh.
Yeah, what's it like to play over there? Difficult?
It depends on the pitches that we play. The first time I went was really great batting pitches. I got 2 centuries in 1 test match. And then the other time, Bunsen burners from the practice days. So it's fun 3 ways before you could actually play. I mean,
for sure.
I don't think that there's any necessarily easy place to play in international cricket anymore. So everyone has an advantage. So I don't think that necessarily so that you had an unfair opportunity. I guess you could say that you didn't have enough opportunities, but there's no easy place.
Yeah, no, there's not, is there? Phil, what did you make of the Blast finals?
No, it was great. I mean, like I said, the amount of rain we had on the Saturday, it was just great. I mean, credit goes to Edgbaston, Warwickshire, sort of the ground staff there. I mean, for what they've achieved for be able to get the finals going, I thought that was terrific. As I said, it was great for cricket to actually have some cricket throughout the summer, which was fantastic, and credit goes to the ECB, as I mentioned. I go further back. I look into the quarterfinals, and obviously you're supporting Leicester, and the game that really intrigued me the most was the tie game against Notts, and I just felt for Leicester really going out on the power play basically, and I thought they could have had one super over or something like that. So that was the only thing that sort of disappointed me really. It upset me about the whole thing. But in all, I thought it was terrific, and it was great that we got something going this summer.
Yeah, there was a couple of standout performances. Obviously, Duckett in the final. You also had Christian hit that 24, which I think changed the whole ending to that game night, didn't it? Because if he doesn't hit that 24, it's going to go right down to the wire, and then it's down to who handles the pressure better. So obviously that stood out. As well as that, the Notts keeper, I forget his name, Tom Moores, took that diving catch, which got rid of Jamie Overton. But a superb catch, which kind of got me thinking. And Phil, kind of first question for you, I suppose. Who's the best keeper that you you've ever seen play or you played with who didn't play international cricket?
It's quite easy really. It comes down to Carl Cricken. Carl Cricken, who I played with at Derbyshire. The unusual keeper. He's one of those who walked in. But honestly, he was a terrific and fantastic keeper. And and you look at him and you think, wow, But we were blessed with so many wonderful keepers. I mean, and that was a problem back then, really. So, but Carl Cricken, I'd say, is one that I felt a little bit unlucky for.
Yeah. Do you remember Colin Metzen, who used to play for Glamorgan? So when I was growing up, I was keeper up until my adult days, and being from Wales, Colin Metzen, I always used to think was one of the best wicketkeepers around. And then I look, but the problem was he wasn't particularly great with the bat. And now I look back with adult eyes and hindsight, and I do wonder whether I was kind of looking at it through biased eyes, in that he was Welsh, he played for Glamorgan, he was a wicketkeeper like me. What was he like as a keeper? Am I looking at it through Welsh eyes?
No, you weren't. No, you weren't biased at all. No, Colin Metzen was a terrific keeper. I remember as a young lad on the MCC ground staff, which is where I first started. Middlesex, obviously being next door, got me to play a few games for the Middlesex on the 25s and second team. And Colin, I played with Colin for a few games as well. So he was terrific. He was a terrific keeper. As you said, where the only thing that really obviously let him down was the batting. And but as far as glove work, he was terrific. He was brilliant. So you're not being biased at all.
That's good to know. I like to just assure myself now and again. But then, Nye, do you remember Colin Metzen, or was he too before your time?
He was director of cricket when he released me at Glamorgan. So yeah, I definitely remember him.
Yeah, I remember him. Do you remember him as a player though?
Yeah, I do. I've agreeing with Phil what he said there. A lot of the older lads, Matt, Darren Thomas, those guys said he was a good a gloveman as any. It was just that his batting let him down, and I think that was the era when a keeper sort of did have to start to bat, and then obviously now keepers are judged equally on their batting as they are their wicket keeping. So yeah, maybe a case of wrong time, 10, 15 years earlier, maybe would have seen him get better honours. I'm not too sure. I didn't play much with him, but I definitely know who Colin is.
Yeah. Dickie Bird described him as the best wicketkeeper he'd seen since Alan Knott, which is obviously massive praise, isn't it? But couldn't bat.
Okay.
So the next story which we're going to discuss, which was one which Nye pointed me towards earlier, which was Ashwin in the IPL. it seems to be like every time the tournament's on, we have the same conversation and the same controversy, I suppose, where with the man card, man kids run out. He's done it again to who was it? Aaron Finch, and he kind of said that's the final warning. Then he did an interview and said first and final warning for the rest of the Premier League. He's basically going to do it if the non-strikers back it up too much. Now this is going to be a really interesting conversation because we've got a couple of bowlers and then a batsman. So we got a nice mix of current and ex-professionals. So let's see where everyone stands first of all. Kieran, as a batsman, where do you stand just on that man card debate generally?
Absolutely hate it. I think it's disgusting. It's absolute rubbish. But he's within, I guess, his rights. But if you're looking at the spirit of cricket, just tell the guy, go and do that, whatever it is, have a word with the captain, have a word with the umpire. But every cricketer tries to get some advantage in any way, shape, or form. Why wouldn't he?
Yeah, of course. It's professional sport, and at the end of the day, whatever the sport, professionals will always try and get as close to that line as possible. So before we get into Ashwin, Nye, where do you stand just on it as a concept?
I used to be a staunch no, but I'm slowly starting to lean towards a yes with a warning. No warning, no, that's crap. Warning, continue to do it. It's no different to coming down the wicket, missing it, and getting stumped, if you ask me. So
yeah, and players like in recent years, where obviously T20 and there's been one day scores now compared to 20 years ago are very different, aren't they? What would have been a good score, and I think every run counts. And I think over these last couple of years, the non-striking batsmen are getting further and further down the pitch. So I can understand bowlers' frustrations in trying to rein them in a bit. Where do you stand on it, Phil, generally?
Well, yeah, it's a tough one, really, because for the spirit of the game, it's a no-go. To me, it's a no-go. But as you see with T20 now, and the way the game is now, like you said, every run counts. And you're coaching, you're coaching kids now, you're coaching players now to be ready to try and sneak that extra run. So, it's part of the game. I agree with with the guys where you give a warning. If you're given a warning and say, look, I'm giving you a warning. If you do it again, I'll run you out. I accept that. That's not a problem. Because when there's no warning and it's done, then I think it's just not right. It's not spirit of the game. But I think if you're warning, then that's fair enough.
As Nye or Phil, have you ever done it in a game? No.
I've had it done to me.
Never.
I've been man-cadded.
Have you?
Yeah.
With a warning? Or just a warning, or just had it done?
No. In a game, I had it man-cadded. There's a club in South Wales where one bowler does it quite a lot, actually. And yeah, I got man-cadded, no warning. He appealed. The umpire said, "Do you want to withstand that appeal to the captain?" He said, "Yeah," and he gave me out. So technically, I'm out.
Shout his name out. Shout his name. Come on.
I know.
I can't
name and shame him.
Come on, name and shame him. Come on, let's have it.
But so I haven't seen this particular incident with Ashwin. Did he run Aaron Finch out, or did he just warn him? Anyone know? I think he warned him.
All I've seen is warned him. That's all I've seen.
Yeah.
Yeah, so in Ashwin put out a tweet and he said, "Let's make it clear. First and final warning for 2020. I'm making it official. Don't blame me later." And the two people he tagged was Aaron Finch and Ricky Ponting. And he just put run out the non-striker. So he's obviously going to do it. Can anyone tell me the first time there was a man card in a game? In a professional game, at least. Anyone know the year Want to take a guess?
I'm so uninterested in man-catting that I'd have no clue.
1980.
I'm having a guess. It's in the 80s. Is that correct?
So the dismissal is named after an Indian bowler, Vino Mankad, who ran out Australian batsman Bill Brown in 1947.
Oh wow!
It's a while
So
ago.
there we go. So there we go. So seeing as Kieran doesn't care about the man card whatsoever, typical batsman. The story, Key, which you pointed me towards when we were chatting earlier, was about Afghanistan cricketers, who passed away. What was that about, mate?
I think he was Afghanistan opening batsman. He got into a car crash or something and he passed away. I think it was today or yesterday.
Oh, no way. I did not know about that. I'll have a quick look at that. But
Tarakai. Najib Tarakai.
was it?
Yeah.
Was that a car accident? Was it?
Yeah.
That's sad. Do you know? Is he a current player? Is he?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say that name sounds very familiar. God, that's sad. It's shocking. That is.
He's only 29, isn't he?
Yeah.
Just no age at all. That's really sad. I did not realise that. Oh, that's sad. Very, very sad. So condolences to Afghanistan cricket and all his teammates and friends, for sure. Right, that's thrown me a bit, that, hasn't it? So it's because I didn't read your message properly, Key. And
You sure you haven't got COVID?
yeah, I know. Maybe that's what it is. It's just my brain's gone completely. It's just it's melted. Right, back on track. Let's get on. Let's talk about you, Phil, and let's talk about you. Where do we start? What was your earliest cricketing memory, which kind of made you fall in love with the game?
That's very easy, really. Growing up, sort of watching, sort of West Indies team in the 80s. They were, to me, the ultimate. They were the best. And then, you sort of with my mum and dad supporting, the West Indies, obviously from the Caribbean. And so it was, it was in the house, watching them, and then you sort of, as a youngster, you're watching those guys and you're thinking, wow, I want to be like them one day. And then obviously, being brought up in England, from the age of 6 to 7, then you had people like Botham, Lambs, and all these guys watching those guys play. So, they were my early memories really of cricket, and I think, but I think the West Indies team itself, they're the ones who entertain. And used to see the crowd, used to see all the West Indian fans, you see, go to the test matches. There was a wonderful atmosphere, and I think that made me fall in love with the game. You no longer see that. I remember one of the things, especially when I was on MTC Ground Staff, and I sort of bowl into the West Indies side back then, and then you used to see all the supporters at Lord's. It was terrific. It was terrific, and that's what really made me fall in love with the game.
Did you have a particular hero growing up? Someone who you idolised, wanted to be?
Well, yeah, after sort of watching those guys play, and you're in awe of them really, and they were great. They were legends. But the one, one person really who I loved and watch him play, a great deal watch on TV was Ian Botham, and you used to think, wow, this guy's fantastic. But you're watching him on TV, and you always wish as a kid, you wish that one day you're going to be a professional cricketer, or one day you're going to be playing for England or do whatever. And it happened where I was very fortunate. Sort of got selected to play for England. Went on tour. And my first roommate was Ian Botham. So
It's incredible.
It was a childhood dream, mate. Sort of it all came true. So it was fantastic. And then and then you end up playing against those great West Indian players. I mean, towards the end of their careers, or sort of the latter end of their careers, you played against those guys, and you appreciate and you realise how fantastic these guys were. So yeah, I mean, I was very fortunate, and that's why I fell in love with the game.
Excellent. Yeah, and I guess that West Indies side from like the sort of mid-70s right up into the 90s was just incredible. It was like a conveyor belt of world-class fast bowlers. So I mean, it must have been incredible for you to grow up kind of watching, these West Indian bowlers, watching people like Ian Botham, and then, like you say, you then got to not only play with Ian Botham, but to room with him, and then obviously you're facing these bowlers who you've playing against them, these bowlers who you've idolised growing up. Was there any kind of nerves when you first came up against those West Indian bowlers?
Well, if I
bit of extra padding.
Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't say that nerves. I'm not sure if we're allowed to use the word.
Yeah, you can say whatever you want.
Myself, really. Yeah. Sometimes you lose sleep because you're thinking you're in next day and you know what's going to come around your head. Because if you remember back then, you can bowl as many bounces as you want. It didn't matter where you batted. You had to be able to play. If you weren't able to play, then you were going to struggle. Look, no one. I don't care. Kieran will tell you. No one likes facing quick bowling, fast bowling.
No.
I mean, in real case, no one does. You cope with it and you manage it, but no one does. And anyone who tells that, they're lying. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I can't imagine it's that much fun having it whiz around your head.
Yeah, it's a challenge. And you sort of, as batters, you gear up to the challenge, and you get through it, and you have your own technique. You find your way of playing it. But I wouldn't say no one enjoys it. Some people, once they've got in batters, I'm sure once they're in and they're enjoying the challenge, that's when you enjoy it. But I'll sit your hand up and say, "Oh, I want more fast bowlers." But yeah, the West Indian side. I mean, you talk about conveyor belt. You talk about how many quick bowlers they had back then. I was fortunate as well when I played for Lancashire, where 1 week I was open the bowl twice a background, and the following week I had Patrick Patterson. So I was spoiled for choice, really. You learn from these guys and you play with these guys, and so in a sense, I was very, very fortunate.
Yeah, I was going to say that's an incredible pair of guys to learn from and train with and just learn on a daily basis to get better. How old were you when you made your England debut?
I was 20. Yeah, 19, turning 20. Yeah.
This is quite young, isn't it? Really, like even now is relatively young.
But yeah, again, I was one of those who never played any representative cricket in the junior age group. I went to the wrong school for a start. I lived in most probably the wrong area of London, and every time I went for trials, I was just pushed aside. So I never played any representative cricket until I was fortunate where one of the captains at the club side I played for, I think he might have been second or third 11 captain, wrote to Lords for the MCC ground staff trials. And the only way I got that trial because one of the guys who played at my club worked at Lords, so he personally took the letter in and said, "We got a kid," and somehow I got a trial. And I sort of managed to get onto the MCC ground staff. And from there, then it's the ground staff we used to play against second team, county second team. So we played against Leicestershire, and Ken Higgs spotted me and offered me a couple of trial games. And you're talking about kind of from Glamorgan as well. I think Glamorgan was very interested in myself as well. So I was fortunate in that way. But representing cricket, I was nowhere near it. I didn't play it at all. And that's why I always say to youngsters, you get a lot of kids nowadays where it's so important for them to play representing cricket. It's I think it's more important for their parents, and sometimes it's actually it's not. It's because counties and the professional side of it, they only look at you when you get to about 16, 17, 18, when you're starting to develop really.
Yeah.
So for me as a youngster, you just play as much as you can. It doesn't matter where you play or how you play. Just play, express yourself, and if you're good enough, when you get to 16, 17, 18, I'm sure the counties will pick you up.
Yeah, I think you obviously you played a lot of representative cricket growing up as a teenager. I played a little bit myself, like as a teenager. I do think wherever you go with cricket, there is an element of if you go to the right school or you play for the right clubs, you get a look in earlier, if at all. Would you agree with that, mate?
Yeah, definitely. You look at the England setup now, I think 3/4 of it are private school lads. I mean, myself and Kieran both went to Millfield, which is probably regarded as the best or one of the best cricketing schools in Britain. But Phil's point about playing representative cricket, about parents, I definitely agree with, because I look at lads that I played representative cricket with, Glamorgan 17s, Glamorgan 19s, and only myself and one other even got a contract. And we used to hammer Surrey, Somerset, all these fashionable counties. And I don't see how that can't transition. And the only reason is we weren't good enough. And I hold my hand up and said I had a crack at pro cricket. I wasn't quite good enough. But I think the big thing is that some parents seem to think that their kids are the next Virat Kohlis or Pat Cummins when they're 14 because they play for Surrey under 15s. And it's like, well, actually, if you play for Surrey second team and you're scoring hundreds every week at 17, then yeah, you're probably going to go on and play first class cricket because that's pretty extraordinary. But if you're just doing it at age group cricket, I mean, yeah, it's good, but it only counts when you get to like 16, 17, 18 and then into men's cricket, I think. Yeah, but the school thing, definitely agree with.
I agree completely with that, though, because like there was loads of guys at my age who would play. We'd all played like for the county or whatever at like 15, do great, but only I'd say a handful were playing men's cricket at that point, and I would say an even smaller group of them did particularly well at men's club cricket. But at 15, all those boys thought that they were going to go on to be, professional cricketers or whatever it may be. And I think, going off memory, it was a long time ago, I think one of them nearly did, but actually he chose rugby anyway. So,
I definitely agree with it.
Yeah, 100%.
And I think if you can get people playing men's cricket earlier, the better.
Yeah.
Glamorgan have got a system 100%. Now that they had early 90s, it was called the Colts, where effectively their academy boys would play in the Premier League down here. And it gave players like Robert Croft, Darren Thomas, Matt Maynard, all these guys that went on to have great careers. And now they've reintroduced it. The summer just gone was their first summer. And I think that's a brilliant thing. If you can get 16, 17-year-old lads playing against very good club cricketers, we have allocated pros as well in our league. So if they can be exposed to that at 16, 17, that's far greater than playing Surrey under 15s v Glamorgan under 15s, if you ask me.
Well, even now, like with RADA, going back, like you played for the RADA men's teams, like really early, didn't you? You like I went in, I think when I was about 14, 15, but I think you were in there before that, because obviously you were like very talented or whatever. And like, I don't know if you'd agree, but from my point of view, as soon as I went from playing kids my own age to playing men's cricket, that improved me massively. It also started me drinking beers, like by sort of 16, 17 as well. But,
it's not a bad thing.
Yeah, got to weigh up the pros and cons, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
But don't get me wrong about the age group cricket. Don't get me. I think it's great they can play if they selected and playing age group cricket. But I think what they've got to look at it is to express themselves, and hopefully improve, and then sort of and go on and go on further on. But a lot of them think because they're automatically picking those sides or they're in those age groups that they're automatically going to be pros, and it doesn't happen that way. And I think they've just got to take it for the right reasons and use it to benefit themselves.
Key, where did you go? Did you go straight from school to professional cricket, mate? What was your route?
Yeah, it kind of worked out that way for me. But we had back then when we had the Alan Stanford T20 hole situation going on in the Caribbean. We had some pro teams in various islands, and the island that I'm from, Nevis, actually had one of the pro teams. So I actually left sixth form and went to join the pro team. And then the next year, when the pro team was dissolved, I was playing first class cricket at 17. And then just a few years later, I was playing for the West Indies, because at the end of my first season, I was already playing 18 cricket. But I think that youth cricket is a flawed system in the sense that when a kid gets selected at under 13 or under 15 or whatever the case is, they literally just progress through the system. And the other kids that are not selected always end up on the fringes. So people develop at different ages. You can't say to me that the kid that was selected at under 30 is always going to be better than the other kid that wasn't selected when they get to 15 and 17. Obviously, people progress. Some people don't improve. I've seen that a lot. There are some guys that have played youth cricket with. They'd be scoring hundreds in under 15 and under 17. Like, Jesus Christ. Every time I see this man, it's 100. And you get to senior cricket, and they've never played a first-class representative match. And you've gone on to have a career. Someone else has come out at the age of 17. Andre Russell is an example. He was bowling at 70 miles an hour when he was 17. And the next day, his last year under 19, he came back and he was bowling at 90 something and hitting the ball out of the park. And then, well, you know what he is today. So I think it's a hard system where kids are just, it's sort of a protective system. Kids are just kept in a system and I guess over nurtured and not really exposed to the harsh realities of cricket and competitive life.
Yeah, and I think it kind of goes back to what Nye was just saying about getting kids playing men's cricket as early as possible, because I think that exposes you to the harsh reality of it, and it'll improve you all round. But even just very quickly, Key, like we touched on this briefly last week, like obviously even cricketers who have turned professional, represented their country, you could come in, say, I'll use you as an example. You came into the West Indies side quite young. I'm sure you would agree that you're a different person, a different player now than what you were when you first broke into the West Indies A side or whatever, because you develop, you mature as a person, you change, you grow, whatever it may be. And I think sometimes cricket has a habit of abandoning people from a selection point of view if they don't do it first time around. And sometimes maybe they weren't ready the first time in whatever. It might be they're not ready, or it might be that the whatever, there could be reasons. Whereas second time round, they may be more ready for that challenge. They may have developed their game or whatnot. And I think sometimes cricket is generally can abandon players too quickly. Would you agree with that, mate?
Yeah, I think lots of that as well has to do with the system that whatever country has in place. We all know the stories of when Australia was producing grade after grade. You technically had to look at getting to the age of 30 before you even considered, because of the players that were on the team, and it was literally just that impossible to break into the team. Obviously, if it's a weaker domestic system, it would be easier for a younger player to get in. But obviously with youth, there's that naivety that you could just go onto the international stage against guys that have been hard in the game year in, year out. There's some guys that are naturally just that gifted and just take to it like a fish to water. See, Brian Lara's first century is 277. But again, his first class grounding, he's been against Joe Garners and Malcolm Marshall and that stuff. So playing international cricket would have been actually easier for him than domestic cricket, the quality of bowling that he would face. So it's a lot to do with the domestic structures and how strong those are that will tell how quickly a player will take to international cricket. But I think that a player's peak will probably be between 29 to 32, 34, which is, again, the age ranges that teams get rid of players. So it's a bit give and take.
Yeah. Nye and Phil, I suppose, but I'll ask both of you this. Kieran made a point there about when Brian Lara's coming through the domestic scene, he's facing the likes of Joel Garner and other world-class bowlers. Whereas now, there's so much international cricket, and you've got all these players signed to central contracts. Using England specifically as an example, do you think the English county scene is weakened by the fact that there's so much international cricket? So maybe the young batsmen or the young bowlers coming through are not facing necessarily the a sufficient or the very top players in the game all season round. It's kind of, it's depending on what international games are on. They might not get to test themselves at that county level against the very top players. Go on, Nye, we'll go to you first, and then I'll go to Phil after that.
Oh, there's definitely a point to be made there. I think at the moment, England's, especially English fast bowling, is probably the best it's been in a long, long time. They're blokes that don't even get picked that will take 60, 70 wickets every year if there's a full championship season. I think when it was sort of mid-90s, early 2000s, I believe you could have 2 overseas players in county championship games, which would obviously improve the standard. But I still think that county cricket is strong. It could be stronger. Every league could be stronger, but I still think county cricket is very strong. But there's plenty of domestic bowlers out there that are still easy, good enough to play international cricket. But obviously, with England's seam bowling as it is, they're sadly never going to play.
Would you agree with that, Phil?
Yeah, I do agree with him. Yeah, I mean, central contracts has made a big difference, really. Like you said, just mentioned about the English fast bowlers is mostly one of the best around at the moment. Yeah, because we look after our bowlers, and which is great. And central contract and has come in, and that's helped a great deal. I'm always in favour of the county system. I think county cricket is fantastic, and you play in all sorts of different conditions. So you're going to, you have to adjust. You learn your game. I can only praise county cricket, really. I think it's terrific, and I've always done that, and they continue.
What young players are you looking at on the English domestic scene who haven't had a chance yet that you'd perhaps like to see get a chance soon?
Well, I got to give a shout out to our mate Daniel Bell-Drummond at Kent. I'd like to see him have a go. I think his runs over the last sort of 8 or 9 seasons have been right up there with the guys who have been picked. I think he was just named in the T20 Team of the Year, actually. So I'd say Daniel Bell-Drummond down at Kent. I'd also think as well Sam Billings not getting a one-day contract by England
that was quite shocking. I thought.
Yeah, I don't really understand that one. The man scored 180 and 70 this summer, and doesn't get offered a white ball contract. He's not going to get a test contract because he's not interested in playing red ball cricket. I say interested; that's not his forte. But white ball cricket, he should have definitely been in there for me.
Yeah, there was a few notable names though, mate, from those central contracts that either didn't get them or some big names who didn't get those central contracts. Was it Bairstow who didn't get a
test
one? Which I know like he has fallen down the pecking order a little bit, but I was a little bit surprised that he didn't get one, just because of his record overall. I don't know. Were you surprised by that, or did you expect it?
Ask Kieran. He's played against him, I think, a few times.
Played against Johnny Key?
Yeah, a few times.
Were you surprised he didn't get a central contract with England for the Test side, even though he's fallen down the pecking order a bit?
Yeah, Johnny should definitely be playing in such matches. You've got to figure out a way for it to happen. Obviously, I'm not just happy with Joe taking up the mantle and batting number 3. He doesn't want to do it. That's probably handicapping England England's full potential as a team. But Johnny basically has to play. When you look at his numbers, it's not too dissimilar to Ben Stokes' test numbers. When Johnny was England's keeper, obviously England were in a good patch and he was performing well. I think that you could have had him and Butler play without disrupting the flow of the team. Obviously, the team management are massive believers in Josh, which you could see why he's a hell of a player. But I don't think that you have to sacrifice one for the other.
Yeah, I wondered. Obviously, Nye, after we talked to Courtney Walsh and Corey Collymore last episode, me and you had a chat about the news and some bits and pieces. And one of the things we talked about was the amount of money which the ECB has lost in lockdown and through COVID and stuff. I wonder if someone like Johnny Bairstow, I would assume, is probably on quite a high rate of a contract. Whether that came into it, that maybe they felt they could save some cash with it, I don't know, because Joe Denley didn't get any contract at all. And that was a bit weird because he had previously had a limited overs contract, and actually he's done all right in white ball cricket for England over this summer. So that was kind of interesting. Then you've got Zach Crawley, Ollie Pope, and Dom Sibley all received test contracts for the first time. Don't think there's any big surprise there.
No.
Would you say? Like they've all done very well. What else do we have? Tom Curran got a white ball contract, which I think he deserves that. He's never let England down when he's played. But then the other thing with that, I don't know how they do it, but like Tom Curran doesn't play every white ball game. When they've got a full strength side to pick from, so I don't know. I'm not entirely sure how they do it. Just while we wait for Phil to jump back in, have you guys caught much of the IPL over the last few days, last week?
Yeah, I was watching it today. It's supposed to be working.
Someone got a concussion today, didn't they?
Surya Kumar hit in the head by Archer.
Oh, did he?
Yeah,
nasty.
But he also
went on
bowled
and scored runs, though, didn't he?
Yeah, it was like last over of the game, of the innings. But Archer bowled quick. He also bowled 158 mile an hour beamer that nearly hit someone in the head.
Jesus Christ!
Yeah,
did he? That could be worrying. Have you caught much of it, Key?
I've been busy the past few days, so I'm setting up a few personal things, but I've seen snippets from it. I've mostly had it on in the background.
Yeah. You're a businessman, aren't you? He's constantly wheeling and dealing and sorting all these things out.
More I'd love to say I just keep a company. Yeah. Works well for me, though.
Yeah, fair. One thing I would have been interested to ask Phil about is every sport has moved on in terms of pace, faster, stronger. I wouldn't be able to answer. I doubt Kieran would. How did both of them not bat in a helmet against these guys that apparently bowl 90 mile an hour? Because I'm sorry, but you have to surely.
Well, it's not just both of them, is it? It's
all of them. Yeah.
Everyone that played cricket.
Yeah. So were they that quick?
Viv Richards never wore a helmet, did he?
No, exactly what I mean. So were they that quick, or I don't know?
Have you spoken to any older player? They all said that they used to bowl lightning bolts, and their era was always the best.
Oh yeah, I get all that. Yeah.
Yeah, but like Nigel said, it's all got quicker. Everything is quicker now, isn't it? Because sportsmen generally now.
No,
they're athletes, aren't they?
That's reality, but in terms of their mindsets, because
of course,
because they're headstrong. So I've actually heard one guy say that if Shannon Gabriel's bowling 90, then the West Indian pace bowlers back then must have been bowling 190. They were that much quicker. And I was like, if they were that much quicker than Shannon Gabriel, I did not want to face that.
No. Every sport, football quicker, rugby quicker, harder, athletics, people run quicker, jump further. How can cricket not have got that, hit the ball? Well, it has. They hit the ball further, they bowl quicker. I think.
That's really interesting question. That is.
The wickets definitely help. The wickets are better now. I do appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, all covered pitches.
Those uncovered pitches, mate. Against Malcolm Marshall and
I'd have been a handful on a length, little dobbers. Fucking 20 men around the bat, sawdust everywhere.
I'd have been batting like Phil Defreitas, mate.
What about timeless tests?
Oh yeah, and that timeless tests
into day 10.
What was it? 10, like 7-8 test match series, and they got a boat to like Australia as well.
8 ball overs.
Yeah, I can not that. Not about that. Barely ball 6.
60 over.
6 is enough. I don't know how they're going to do it in the 100 as well. It's 10 ball overs, and you can bowl 2 in a row. You can select a bowler to bowl 2 in a row. So someone can bowl 20 balls.
Yeah.
10 from one end and 10 from the other end.
Yeah. So, like, obviously, you're going to have someone like Archer that's going to bowl 20 overs every game. So what's that? 20% of your innings gone. But you can only pick one to bowl 20 overs. 20 balls, sorry. That's a lot of balls in a row.
Your throw with the white ball is like completely next level, isn't it?
It just sort of skids on as well.
Well, maybe 5, maybe 6, doesn't matter if it's skids or not, really.
Yeah. He bowled quick today as well. He bowled very quick today. And those pitches in Dubai are tiny. Played on all 3 of those ones, and they are... Well, Sharjah's tiny. Sharjah is... it's great that they're playing it there, but as a bowler, it must be fucking depressing.
So that's actually one of the most one-day internationals in the history.
Yeah, it is, yeah. I mean, it's like 60 metres. You've only got to plink it.
That's nothing, mate, that is 60 metres.
And when guys are bowling at that speed, if you just top edge it, it's going out the stadium.
Rowan Sharma swings the way he does.
Oh, yeah. Well,
that's why Jofra's bowling so fast, isn't it? It's trying to just get past the batsman.
That's the one thing I could never understand, how like those guys like Rohit Sharma can pick a ball up at that speed and literally hit it out of the park. Yeah. Like I could never play the short ball, so I just left it. Whereas he just stands there and hits it out of Dubai.
To be fair, Mumbai is actually a quick pitch. So he's actually grown up on a bouncing pitch. And
they've got some quite quick bowlers as well there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he's grown up on it. But some of the like other guys, I don't know how they do it.
Who's the quickest bowler you faced, Key?
Mitchell Johnson. Mitchell Johnson.
Is he quick?
He made Jonathan Trott retire. That's so quick.
Yeah.
It's stupid quick. We played a one match in Perth. I was batting with Dwayne Bravo. He pitched up one and I hit him back over his head for 6.
Oh, next ball to be short.
He just came out to Michael Clark. Send the squirrel back. I'm going to break his fucking ribs. Before, like, while he was running up, I already started to jump. Down fast. Next ball, got a single. Came in and said to Bravo, well, you're going to have to face the rest of this spell however long it is because I'm not coming back on that.
Yeah. No, you stay there, mate.
No. Strong nose.
Wait on.
Facing Faulkner from the X and bowling at 82. Really.
Yeah, nice. That'll do.
Yeah.
On a good week. I think Start was quick.
It's not. He's pitching the ball up, so it's not.
And I found he had a nice, really good action, so you can actually like watch the ball. I'm okay with that. Timar Mills was horrible because he bowled quick, but he bowled short every ball. And then Sean Tate, when he came to Glamorgan, yeah, I didn't fancy that. And Matt Maynard was like, we'll ask him on Friday. He goes, oh, no, you can stick your pads on. For what? First net session over, and he was just peppering me. I was like, oh, please get me out of here.
Brentley was quick, but that was the end of his, for the latter end.
Tino Best was sharp, mind.
I've never really found Tino to be like uncomfortable because I guess you know it's coming. So.
Yeah, sure. And he just abused me for a good 5 overs, like everything.
I'll tell you, Fidel Edwards was awkward because of his angle. He was awkward.
Yeah, low arm. was right, at the moment, who's out there? England boys. Well, they're all Archer. He'd be up there. I never faced him, but I wouldn't really want to now, to be honest. No, don't fancy that.
After watching that today.
No, thanks.
But it doesn't
Shannon
look
Gabriel.
So we had this one net session in Trinidad. I was batting with Hetmeyer, so we had a middle practice, open net. And he bowled Hetmeyer like a sharp ball that hit his glove and went for 6 into the side screen at the Queen's Park Open in Trinidad. It was the quickest net session I've had in the Western screen because Miguel commented just like 2 days out from the first test. And a few guys were coming back from injury, so they were trying to prove their fitness. And he bowled the speed of like literally like length balls were going straight over the keeper's head, 1 bounce for 4.
Yeah, it's not fun, that. It's not fun. I tell you who was quick as well, and he was deceptive. I was a guest of the show. Simon Jones was rapid.
Yeah, he was good.
I faced him in a second team game at Hampshire, and he bowled quick.
Yeah, our first team, he came to the Caribbean to play in the T20 final, and Hampshire came out.
Oh, yeah.
This was at the point when he was bowling off with 4 steps.
Yeah.
And it was coming, I was like, what the hell is that? It was coming through like, really quick.
Yeah, I couldn't work out how he literally walked to the wicket.
And generated that pace.
Like, you see bowlers doing walkthroughs in the warm-up, and you're like, oh, okay. He does that, and he bowls full pace. I was like, how do you do that? Like, for someone who wasn't very quick myself, you run in, you try and get every mile an hour out, but he just strolled in and hurled it down at 90 mile an hour. Literally, every ball. Sad, really, what happened to him. He could have been one of England's greatest seamers ever, really, with the injuries.
He had a lot of injuries, didn't he?
I think that was
ones.
Yeah, and a lot to do with that impact on that short of a runner. Well, not even a runner, walk in to then slam it down, get all that through your body. Can't be good for your body.
Oh, cool. I've seen Alzari Joseph pull some big stars as well, especially on domestic cricket. He bowled one last season in St. Lucia, which was like a green hard top in a pink ball match. And it was just like,
not fun.
Well, it was fun for me. I was at first slip. I didn't know.
Yeah, just stand there on the 30-yard discs. Yeah, nice one, mate. Keep going.
We actually bowled the team up for 50. That's all fancy as well.
Right. Tell you what we'll do then. Let's finish with a quiz. Just to finish us off.
Oh, his cricket knowledge is terrible.
Yeah, he wasn't very good last time. He's going to make a comeback. He's going to make a comeback today, though, wouldn't you, Key? This is the day now.
Not
What's
sure
the Key? When was the longest test match ever?
When or where?
When or where? What year? Just give me any detail about it, and I'll give you the point.
I reckon it was in Australia.
It's got to be England, Australia, isn't it?
No. It was in Durban, and it was 10 days long.
Oh, no.
England versus South Africa. It was abandoned. The 8th day was rained off, though. It was abandoned. Yeah, it was abandoned on the 10th day because the ship taking the England team home was due to leave.
Fucking hell.
1939 March. So like a couple of
how do you do that? 10 days. How does the wicket last for 10 days?
Yeah, could you imagine the state of it? Especially in 1939, it was probably uncovered as well.
But I imagine.
And they had rain.
I imagine those days it was 2 innings. So surely on shit wickets like that, innings would be wrapped up in a couple of days. Unless the bowling's that bad. They couldn't have been.
10 days. Jesus.
You have to remember when guys like WG Grace got out the stumps back up.
Yeah, class. Yeah, spot on. Didn't come to watch you, mate.
Kind of laugh 10 days.
Right, to finish us off then, quiz questions. Round 1, 10 questions. Nye Norman versus Kieran Powell. Winner takes home the trophy. The last time we did a quiz, Nye, I believe you won, didn't you?
I always win. So they called me annoying at school because I knew it all.
Is that what they used to call him, Key? Annoying?
to call
This is the trophy.
Oh, nice.
So there you go. It's a Mexican wrestler, I think. I don't know. Right. Who was the first player born in the 1990s to play for England? I'll give you a clue. He no longer plays.
Born in the 1990s.
No longer plays cricket.
Born in the 1990s.
Yeah.
So it'd be like my age. Our age.
Right, Phil just said he had a power cut, so he couldn't get back on at all.
1990s. What knows?
Right, 10 seconds to have a guess.
Johnny Bairstow.
One of the players for England, so Euro.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of this player.
I would. Zafar Ansari.
Okay, say final answer.
Yeah.
What's yours, Key?
I don't know.
James Taylor.
Oh, yeah, good.
Doesn't play anymore.
Sure. Yeah.
Tried to give you a clue. Which was the first English county that Anil Kumble played? And I'll give the point to the person who says it first.
Sorry.
Wrong. Gotta get a guess it.
Yeah.
I'm going to add in really tense. Yorkshire is wrong. Northants. So it remains 0-0. I'm going to add in really tense sound effects for these quiz questions.
Okay.
Like, who wants to be millionaire?
Countdown.
Background. Yeah. Question number 3. With the score 0-0. Who was the last England captain to play South Africa before the ban? Oh, that's a hard one.
Say what year?
If it was the last game before the ban, it doesn't say the year, no.
Mike Brady?
No.
Oops.
No. It says MJK Smith.
I've never clue.
No, me neither. I wouldn't have known that one, and I got the answer in front of me. Question 4. Who won the Scottish? I'd be amazed if either one of you get this. This is hard. But luckily, Key, question 5, I think you've got a good chance of getting.
Finally.
Question number 4. Question number 4. Who won the county championships in every season from 1951 to 1958?
Yorkshire.
Wrong.
Middlesex.
Oh, so
Sorry.
close. Sorry. Question number 5. Still 0-0. Where in the West Indies did Brian Lara score his record-breaking 375? And I'll give it to the first person.
Antigua. Yeah.
1-0 to Kieran. Nye's let him slip in there. Question number 6. Who was the first player to take over 1,000 catches in first-class cricket?
1,000.
I wouldn't get that. I didn't even know who it is.
Alan Knott.
That has to be a wiki.
Yeah.
That's English.
Jack Russell.
I don't even know who it is. I've never heard.
Go on.
Frank Woolley.
Oh,
W-O-O-L-L-Y.
Even if you play 500 matches, it's 2 a game. He must have played a stupid amount of matches.
So he played 64 tests and 978 first-class games.
978 percent.
What era? What sort of like era?
1909 to 1934. So yeah, he took 1,018 first-class catches, 64 catches at test level. He bowled at 94,000 balls at first class level and 6,000 at test level.
Oh, so he whipped the gloves off and had a bowl as well.
It looks like, yeah.
How many wickets?
Yeah.
How many wickets did he take? He took 83 test wickets and 2,000 first class wickets. He had a
What?
bowling average at first class level of 19.87. and 33.
So what's this guy's name? Frank Woolley.
Frank Woolley. WOOLEY. He played for Kent. Batting average 40 first class and 36 tests. Highest score at first class level, 305.
I've never heard of this bloke.
Yeah, I know. He's got unbelievable catch. He had, I don't know if he was a keeper though, because he didn't have any stumpings.
But you've got to be a keeper and take that many
He
catches.
must have. But then
have to be. Then
it says his role. He was an all-rounder, slow left armour.
No shit.
Unbelievable.
My ball. He was.
Yeah. So there we go. Still 1-0 to Kieran. 3 questions to go. Question number 7. What did the ICC stand for before 1965?
International Cricket Committee.
Close, but wrong. It's not international, and it's not committee.
Independent Cricket
Council?
No. I'll give you one more guess each.
Is independent right?
No. I'll tell you the first word.
Fine.
It's imperial.
Imperial
Cricket, I take it, is the second one.
Yeah.
Imperial Cricket
Conduit.
Competition.
What'd you say then?
Competition.
No, conference.
Oh.
Close. Still.
I need to do something.
1-0 to Kieran. Now he's got to put it out. And the questions. Question number 8. Who were the first winners of the Women's World Cup in 1973?
Australia.
I'll give you one guess each. See, this is like a limited choice, isn't it?
It's Australia or England?
India.
Oh, no, you should have listened to Kieran.
Australia.
England.
Oh.
How do you not?
Well, India lost in the final of the last one.
Question number 9. Still 1-0 to Kieran Powell. Is he going to redeem himself? What is Bob Willis's middle name?
W begins with W, isn't it?
Doesn't begin with W.
G.
If you, I'll give you a clue. If you look at his famous hair, that is kind of a clue.
Dylan. George Dylan.
It's Dylan. Well done, Nye. That takes it to 1-1 with one question to go. But there's a double answer. It's a double answer for this one. Which England batsmen?
Any questions?
This is the last question now.
1-1.
Which England batsmen both scored double centuries against India in 1985 in the same innings? I will give you a point for each answer.
How many guesses do we get?
You can have
1.
David Gower.
Wrong. So that's one. You have one guess for each one.
I got another guess, so yeah. For the second player.
Yeah, for the second player. Kieran's waiting for you to guess to write off two others.
Gower.
Like they're well known people. Like they're not like Frank Woolley.
Yeah, I mean, never heard of that guy.
1985, England. Not many English batsmen scored.
Is it the same innings or the same test?
They both scored double centuries in the same innings against India.
I reckon that was Eddie's Richard Ellison's sort of era.
Okay, it has.
Yeah, I'd say it would be. I'm surprised at David Gower. Definitely not Gower. Okay. Mike Gatting.
There's one. Oh, it's 2-1. No, Kieran, you've got to pull something out of the bag now. And this second one is harder. How can I give you a clue? I'm trying to think.
Is it like
Kieran's got 2 guesses left though as well.
Sounds stupid, but was he a batter, or was it a...
Mike Gatting. What?
No, I've already said him. You can't say him.
No. I've got 2 guesses, and that's one of them.
Oh, so you got one guess left.
Yeah.
So if you get this one, you win.
We're tied at 2. 1985. Any questions in there? That would help.
I'm trying to think if I can how I can give you a clue. He's also been a coach of.
Is it David Lloyd?
No, that's one guess.
He's had 2. Yeah, bloody Gatting as well.
Yeah, but Gatting was right, wasn't it? You had a guess for each one.
Okay. So I've still got another guess then, if I got the second.
But you guessed David Gower for the first one.
You've guessed 7 people.
And I suppose technically you have got another guess.
Yeah, I've got another
guess. Mike Gatting right, didn't you?
Questions already, yeah?
Well, it's 2-2, so I'm going to have to find another question if one of you can't get this right.
I think we should skip another question.
Right, I'll find
Who was it?
Graham Fowler.
Yeah, no, this one's better.
Do you know who that is, Nye?
Yeah, Durham Uni coach as well.
Maybe a little bit of hybrid liver for this last question. Maybe. Any chance?
Well, that's that. Make it a bit easier.
Up the cut question, 2002, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, give us.
I don't know that.
Just something from when you were born, is it?
Doesn't even matter when it was. Just noise not literally the entire thing.
I just don't have a clue about who that was. Frank Woolley. I'm shocked at that.
Yeah,
How have we not heard of him?
He's better than Sachin and Boy, isn't he?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I was going to say. It's like one of the greatest of all time.
Catches. Baffled at that.
Right. How about some ICC World Cup trivia? I'll let you pick a year each, and then you can.
Well, the first World Cup I remember was like '99 in England.
Right,
I was 7, Kieran was 8, 9.
These are the years you can pick from: 1999, 2007.
Yep, 2007. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, 2007.
Right. Okay.
Right,
now you're having 1999, and Kieran's having 2007.
Oh, I thought we were doing the same era, like a
if you want to do, okay. If you want to do we'll do the same era then. 2007.
We don't bend the rules in favor of you here.
All right, go on then. I'll do 99 then.
Right. So who wants to go first?
I'll go first.
Yep.
Yeah, Nye go first because he won the first quiz, didn't he?
No.
Okay. The 99 World Cup. I gotta make sure it's not too easy. Alright, 3 questions. 1999 Cricket World Cup. Who won it?
Australia.
Okay.
Any easier.
Don't worry, you'll have your go now.
Jesus. What did you have for this? Actually, the next question.
In 1999 World Cup, there was 5 host nations. Can you name them all?
England. Wales. Holland. Scotland. And Ireland.
Ireland
was England, Scotland, Ireland, Holland, and Wales. So there's 2 points so far.
What countries reside?
Well, not Britain. So.
Can you name me? Oh, that's too easy. Can you name me 3 of the grounds from outside England that were used for the tournament?
Sophia Gardens.
One.
The Grange.
Where's that?
Edinburgh.
Yeah. One more.
There you go.
The Hague in Holland.
The Hague.
Something
Is that
like
what
that.
they call their ground?
Something like that. I don't know what the one in Holland's called.
So you get half a point each for those. So you had a grand total of
3.
3. So you had 3 out of 4.
What was the The one in Holland.
It's called the VRA Cricket Ground.
Well, never clue.
In Amsterdam. Okay. Cricket. What year were you, Key? Sorry, 2007.
1977.
Yeah, 1977 Cricket World Cup. Okay. Who won it?
2007.
Yeah. So who won it?
Australia. They beat Sri Lanka in the finals at Bridgetown.
Oh, nah, you could be in trouble here.
In the dark.
Specifics. In the dark. Lucas got 120 with a squash ball in his hand.
Yep.
Okay, so I can't ask you who hosted it.
Let's answer that. That's 2-0.
Can you tell me who scored the most runs in the tournament?
I get to have a guess if he gets it wrong.
You can have. I tell you what, Key, you can have 2 guesses because it's a bit harder than the questions which Nye had because it's a bit more specific.
Happy Hayden.
Oh, what a shout! 2 out of 2. Ah, you're in trouble here, mate. I'm telling you.
I was going to guess Jai Surya.
No, Matthew Hayden had a crazy one.
Yeah, he did. Can you tell me? I got a good tiebreak question if you get this as well. Can you tell me who? Double questions. And this is for the. You get a point for each, which will take up to 4. Can you tell me who was the player of the World Cup and who took the most wickets?
Player. I think I got wickets. I think I got the wickets one.
Most wickets was Glenn McGrath. And player of the World Cup was also Glenn McGrath.
Probably right.
Correct.
Sorry, now.
Well
Sorry.
done, Key. Well
Give
done.
just give me a little bit of clarity.
I thought
Well
it was
done,
easy.
mate. His questions were much harder than yours, Nye.
Yeah. No. The Holland cricket ground. Never.
Yeah, but he had to name specific players.
Ireland.
So,
Northern District Cricket Club or something like that.
you are then. The tiebreaker question was going to be the attendance for the tournament overall in in the 2007 World Cup. Like a tiebreaker, who can get closest. So finish us off with that.
Okay.
That one of them.
Yeah, so you'd have to have a guess, and whoever gets closer by
500,000.
and the rest.
Really?
Yeah. So I tell you that there was an average of 22,980 per match.
Lots of
Yeah, there's not 20 games. How many games in the World Cup?
That was a lot of games.
So you have
Oh, it's 6.
group stage, Super 8s, knockout, semi-final, and
yeah,
final.
that's super. 700,000.
1 million.
Bang on.
1
Bang
million.
on a million. Yeah. It's one. You would have been closer. It's 1,172,000.
Oh,
It is a lot of
That
people.
World Cup had so many different groups and so many different islands.
that thing you just said. What's it called? Super 8. They don't do that anymore.
Yeah, they don't do that anymore. They used to drag it out, though, didn't they?
Yeah.
Used
It's
to
just a
proper
lot of
drag
games. Oh, Ireland beat Pakistan, didn't they? And Bob Woolmer died.
And
it out.
Herschel
Yeah,
still gives it 6 sixes in and over.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I do remember.
that's it.
Not
So-
to hit the fastest World Cup.
I got a good quiz question for you guys, but it's a long one. You can put the answer in our group. Can you name, in batting order, of the most runs scored in the world, 11, in that batting order ever in the history of Test cricket? So they must have scored those runs in that batting position.
Oh, so like one.
So I'll give you number 1. So number 1 has to have scored the most runs in
Number 1.
at number 1 in the history of Test
Right.
cricket.
Okay. Got you. All right. Yeah, we'll have we'll drop that in the group chat, and
I'll give you
maybe
I'll give you number 1 to start with.
Go on then.
Alistair Cook.
Right.
So number 2.
So it's someone who scored the most runs at number
Graham
2 in
Smith.
the history of Test cricket.
No, it's not. It's going to be Gordon Greenidge or Desmond Haynes.
Green Gooch, maybe? We'll have a look. We'll drop it in the group chat, and maybe we'll open the show with that. Next episode, we'll read the team out. Obviously, because Phil left, we've had to mismatch the show a bit, and I'll edit it all up, and I'll edit the quiz, and I'll edit the... I'll put the Mark Ramprakash interview in there as well. We'll repair it. And it's going to be a great episode. Talking the fastest bowlers you two faced. A bit about sledging. Tino Best never going to come on the show now because Nye told the story about how he abused him.
I'm good for Tino if you get on.
Yeah, mate,
get him on, and we'll just sit here while he just shouts
off me again.
Shouts abuse at Nye for an hour. But yeah, man.
He got into a big spat on Twitter with Jofra Archer, didn't he? Not so long ago.
Yeah, that was recent, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That was misconstrued.
It's quite funny, though.
Both versions.
Right. I'm going to wrap it up. Big thank you to Phil Defreitas for joining us. Unfortunately, he had a power cut, so he had to leave. But he's going to be back on for a future episode. Big thank you to my co-host, Nye. Cheers, mate.
No problem, anytime.
And you, Kieran, as always. Cheers, buddy.
Cheers.
And we'll be back with Matthew Maynard in our next episode. We've got lots and lots of incredible guests from the cricket world coming up. And tell us what you thought of the Mark Ramprakash interview. Very interesting chat. Very intense. And we'll be back very soon for another episode of State of Play. In the meantime, we bid you farewell. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Hey guys, I'm Si. Welcome to Ace Podcast Nation, and I'm delighted today to be joined by Strictly Come Dancing winner, ex-England international, former Middlesex and Surrey batsman, and one of the most prolific batsmen in county cricket history, Mr. Mark Ramprakash. Welcome, Mark. How are you?
Thank you. Yes, very well, thanks. Good to be there.
Yeah, it's great to have you on. It's a real honour. I'm a big fan. After obviously following your career when I was a bit younger and still playing myself, so I'm really looking forward to having a quick chat with you. So what I'd like to do first of all is so we can get to know you and your tastes a little bit, is we ask you 7 quick fire questions, and we just ask you to basically say the first thing which comes to mind. They're called the Magnificent 7. Okay, so we first and foremost, favourite grounds to play at?
Favourite ground would be Barbados.
Oh, interesting, like that. Ben Stokes, Ian Botham, or Freddie Flintoff?
Ian Botham.
Angriest teammate?
Nasser Hussain.
Most underrated player that you ever played with?
Oh, wow. Okay, the Middlesex, we had a keeper called Keith Brown in the late 80s, early 90s. And he was a really excellent keeper and a very often got really valuable runs. So I think within a county team, he was often underrated because there were other international players around him.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember the name, certainly. Obviously, there wasn't as much kind of TV coverage back then to watch all the county games, but I certainly remember the name. Sir Garfield Sobers, Brian Lara, or Viv Richards? What a choice.
That's a tough one. Yeah, well, I'm going to go with Viv Richards because he was my idol growing up. I remember watching him on the TV in 1976, and I think he remains the best player that I've ever seen. And I think that, you know, the fact that he didn't wear a helmet, you know, distinguishes him from all the others. Not Garfield Sobers, obviously, but certainly, you know, from mid 80s onwards. I know a lot of the current players, you know, they wouldn't dare think of not wearing a helmet. So that courage and bravery that he showed, yeah, for me, he's number one.
Yeah, I'm happy to hear that as a Welshman. Mr. Richards, former Glamorgan batsman, obviously. But yeah, it's frightening to think that they didn't wear a helmet, so many of them in those days. But I mean, like you say, Viv was not fond of the helmets. I don't think he ever wore one, even later in his career either.
No, he didn't. Yeah, no, he didn't.
Yeah. Madness. Okay, the old lords or the new lords?
Wow. Yeah, New Lords, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there, for someone who played there for so many years, is there much of a difference when you kind of stand out there in the middle?
Probably not actually. Probably not. I mean, the stands have been rebuilt, and they've been done very well. But I think in terms of playing surface and the nature of the pitch, there's not a lot of difference.
Because they kept the strip the same way, didn't they? They didn't turn the pitch around. Yeah, I thought.
Yeah, so. And the slope's still the same. So it's not made a huge difference to playing there.
Okay. And then finally, the last of the Magnificent Seven, the greatest English batsman of all time.
Wow, what a question that is. Okay. Look, I'm going to say probably I'm going to go with Graham Gooch, and the reason is because he was an opening batsman, and I've got incredible respect for the guys who, by trade, open the batting against a new ball. It's so difficult, and to do it against the best in the world, and to be as successful as he was, he was a magnificent player, and we were very happy when you were in the same dressing room watching him get the pads on. He was going to give you a reassuring feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. I can 100% understand that decision. Okay, so that's the quick fire questions out of the way. So we'll just have a little chat now about some various subjects. But what I do like to do with my guests is just briefly, in your own words, tell us a little bit about your kind of upbringing and basically how you got to where you are today.
Right. Okay. Well, so I'm born in England. My mum's English. My dad came to England in 1960, and he came from a place called Guyana. And so his ancestors went from India to Guyana in 1880. So hence my surname is an Indian surname. He came over in 1960 to the UK. Had a love of cricket. We used to play in the back garden, and then we moved house, and I joined a local club, and he joined as well. And so that's really how my love of cricket developed. Like any father and son, we used to play a lot together at weekends and stuff. And I learnt a lot of my cricket through my club. My local club were very important, as opposed to now, which were probably a lot of the kids that go on to become professionals are in private schools. So my local club was really important to me. I signed professional for Middlesex in 1987 at the age of 17. Which was an incredibly proud moment because I'd seen them play on TV, and I knew that they had a lot of international players. And at that time, Mike Gatting was captain of England, and he was fantastic for me. Really gave me a lot of confidence, and really was a very positive influence on me. And I did 14 years there, and then I decided to leave, and I went into the 11 years at Surrey. Which was fantastic as well. I knew a lot of the players there, and as soon as I went there, I felt very comfortable in the environment. So I did 25 years as a playing career, very, very lucky, stayed injury-free most of the time, and then went on and did 5.5 years coaching England, which, really enjoyed that. To work with the best players in the world and have a front row seat into international cricket was great. Worked with a lot of different coaches. And so currently, I took on a job in January with Harrow School. I did a couple of months, and then of course it closed, unfortunately, due to the pandemic. But it's open now, and so currently that's what I'm up to. Okay,
so obviously you made your England debut at the young age of 21, and you mentioned there that you signed for Middlesex at 17. What was Mark Ramprakash like as a teenager? Because I think I read somewhere that you were pretty handy at football as well as cricket.
Yeah, so I reckon probably from the age of 10, 11, I used to play a lot of football in the winters, and I had a love of football just the same as cricket. And as I got older, I signed like a little schoolboy thing with Watford from 14 to 16. I remember as a 15-year-old, Watford went over to play Arsenal at London Colney, the training ground, and we lost 7-0, and I was playing central defence. So I think that probably told me to concentrate on cricket. But I still have a love of football, and it was really good, I think, because it helped me. It really helped me fitness-wise. It gave me a good base level of fitness, which really helped my cricket.
Yeah, I think like if it was anything like when I played, the 2 seasons always used to overlap. So I always used to get a bit of grief from the cricket people for not coming to nets, because the football season would just be starting out or just finishing off, and vice versa. But obviously, you had to make your choice, and I'm glad you did, because you went on to have a pretty sensational career. But just before we get onto the kind of your county career and your international career, I did want to go through a couple of things. Like, normally I do not use Wikipedia as any sort of source of information, because it obviously can be edited by people. But I did find some interesting things on your Wikipedia page, so I just wanted to discuss some of them, see how true some of them are, and kind of have a bit of fun with that. But one thing which caught my eye was a variety of nicknames which you had, or according to Wikipedia at least you had, and so I kind of wanted to ask you a bit about that, if that was all right. So let's see what these list of nicknames are. So the first one was Blood Axe, which is a interesting nickname. How did that come about?
Well, that was actually down to Angus Fraser, who felt that at times my commitment and intensity to the cause could sometimes bubble over. Okay. And I felt that I was, when I was a teenager and a young professional player, I was ambitious. I wanted to do really well, and I had a bit of fire in your belly, and I quite like that, to see that in youngsters, to have a passion for the game. And of course, you need that, if you're going to go on and excel at something. You need a determination. Of course, everyone's different and things come out in different ways, but I think that I came into a Middlesex dressing room in 1987, which was a very boisterous place. It was a very macho place. There was a lot of shall we say healthy conflict. There was a lot of challenging, and people said things to you pretty bluntly, and I stood my ground and held my own, I guess, in amongst what was a largely older dressing room than I was. So that's how that one came about. So
do you feel like in those early days you had a bit of a temper, or do you think it was more like a passion and just a determination to succeed? Because I saw that there was, obviously, like I say, Wikipedia is very temperamental, but in the little bit which it says about Blood Axe, it says that teammates like Graham Gooch and Adam Hollyoak, for instance, are the two which are named, had to kind of speak to you just about your aggression within the game and things like that. Was that something which was an issue, or not even an issue, but like an ongoing thing, or is that something which has been put on the Wikipedia page which is perhaps not true?
Well, it's not true. No, I'll have to get on to someone to change that.
Yeah, absolutely.
As so often happens, what is written in print, it's very difficult for individuals to challenge unless you have a lot of money. Yeah. And I don't. So a lot of things have been said about my career which aren't true. So Graham Gooch and Adam Hollyoak never spoke to me about that. But having said that, I was, as I say, committed, and I had an intense passion to want to do well. And if I didn't do well, then that would sometimes boil over, and that is not good. And that's something that I marvel at the current England players, at the way that they handle themselves in the spotlight, the pressures that they're under, and the maturity they show when they have the ups and downs that go with the game. You have to be philosophical. You have to understand that you'll have bad days. But as a coach, I certainly am quite happy to see a passion and a fire in the belly of young players.
Yeah, I've always thought that it's got to be extremely frustrating to be a sportsman or someone in the public eye, wherever it was, a celebrity or an athlete, to have things written about you which are blatantly untrue. And like, that's just a small example. Is Wikipedia, it can be edited by anyone, and you can go in and edit it yourself. But it's just the fact that it's there, and then I'm asking you about that. It must be incredibly frustrating. It must be difficult to deal with when you add in things like newspapers and such.
Yeah, it is, and what you tend to find is that people get tagged very, very quickly, and sometimes those tags are merited, and other times they're unfair, and they tend to give an impression or an unfair impression of people. So I had no one advising me about the media when I was 17, 18, 19 years old. I didn't know anything about the media. I didn't know about playing the media game, PR, your public image. I just wanted to play cricket. And back then, there was no mentor around to sort of help advise me. So, I had one or two incidents that happened, and very quickly, the media jump on you and tag you, and that can be very, very difficult to sort of change that perception. And here I am, I'm 51 years old, and we're talking about stuff that happened 33 years ago, and that can be frustrating because there's so many good things that have happened since then. But
absolutely,
people choose and their agenda, and so I get interviewed by you, and even still, the first thing we're talking about is my younger days and how the intensity and the passion and the commitment that I showed as a young player. That's not really spoken about. It's more about a couple of disciplinary incidents.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta say, like, as someone who kind of watched you from from when you had your England, your major England debut and followed your Middlesex career and then your Surrey career, I was always a big fan of that intensity. And one of the things which always stuck out to me, and I actually mentioned this when I was speaking to Adam Hollyoak in one of the shows on our cricket show, when he was on, was the level at which you were, or the intensity at which you would portrayed on the field when fielding. You took some unbelievable, diving catches and things, which at the time really stood out as unbelievable. I think these days the fielding, is a different game completely. Everyone can field these days, but I think that intensity really showed in the way you took to the field when you weren't batting, and again when you were batting. I think you can't perform at the level that you did in county cricket for 25 years if you haven't got that intensity and that passion. I was just looking at some of your figures, like you played over 460 odd first class games, averaging at over 50. Like, that's a phenomenal record. And I would say, I don't know, obviously you would know much more than me, but do you feel that your intensity and your passion for wanting to be as good as you could helped you to achieve such high standards and first class stats?
Yeah, without doubt, absolutely. The worst season I had was in 1993, and that was when all I was trying to do was say the right thing, do the right thing, and actually it took away all my passion and fire, really. So I think coaches have got to be really careful when they're dealing with young players, that it's a delicate thing to sort of get people to behave as role models, of course, which is very important, but you absolutely don't want to take away their intensity and passion for the game. Ben Stokes had to deal with that, obviously, in the incident, in the aftermath of the Bristol incident, and he's done incredibly well, and he's learned so much from it, and I learned a lot from it. But the passion and intensity, to do 25 years in first class cricket, to go to Derby on a Monday or whatever and try and perform to play Test cricket or whatever, you have to have, I think, a drive internally. People talk about motivation, and mine was a love of the game and wanting to try and be as good as I could be, and that managed to last a long career, and I'm sort of very thankful for that.
Absolutely. And I think you made your debut for England at a very young age. Like, 21 is young. Like, when I think back to when I was 21, like, I wasn't particularly mature in terms of my decision making. So to play, I know it's different for athletes because it's their aim. They're always looking for that to hit the top of their profession or their sport. What was your reaction when you found out for the first time you were in the England squad?
Well, I was surprised because I hadn't I'd had a good England A tour in the winter, and I'd come back to England with Middlesex, and I hadn't started the season brilliantly, and yet my name was being talked about to play in the Test series that summer. And when I was selected for the first test of a 5-test series against the world champions at the age of 21, I was surprised. People often ask me about it, and I often look back and think, well, what were the selectors, what were their expectations of me? Because when you pick players that young, the likelihood is that it's going to be very, very tough. And I went into an England dressing room with a lot of older players, people like Graham Gooch and Alan Lamb were in there, Phil Defreitas was in there, and Derek Pringle, Jack Russell. So I didn't know a lot of them very well. And it was a very tough series, and a lot of the guys struggled. And by the end of it, Alan Lamb and Graham Hick had been dropped. Michael Atherton averaged 9 in the 5 test matches that summer. So it was a very, very tough initiation. I mean, subsequently to that, since I've been coaching and that, you sort of try and, when you're adding young players to a team, you're looking to try and put them in, I think, and select them when they're more likely to succeed and hopefully establish themselves. And of course, look, the England environment was a very different place back then in '91. The management was really non-existent, and we didn't really have much of a team atmosphere, because when you played and the match finished, you said goodbye to people, not sure if you'd see them at the next game. So it was a bit of a revolving door in terms of players and stuff. So look, it's a very tough initiation, and perhaps that tough start. Although I ended up playing all 5 games, I only a top scored at 29, and I didn't really jump the hurdle to make me feel as though I belonged at that level, and then things became very tough.
Yeah, I mean, psychologically, is it difficult when you're coming in at a young age? Everyone around you, even the experienced players, are struggling with their own form, and like you were getting starts. I think you made a few 20s, if not. I think you got a start in pretty much every innings or most of the innings during the series, without perhaps being able to go on and convert it. Like, is that psychologically difficult for a young man to process? And then it wasn't too long after that you were kind of dropped in out of the side, and then back in, and then you were kind of in and out for a while.
Yeah, I think it is a tough thing for young players to handle, to be in and out of an environment. I think that things have moved on brilliantly since then, and the England team actually at the moment are very welcoming to young players, and I think they have been for probably the last 10 years, and they make sure that the environment's a place where there's humour. The senior players are very accessible, and sort of barriers are broken down that were perhaps there when I was playing in the 90s. There's the central contract system, so when people get selected, they're more likely to have a run in the side. So look, there's a lot of factors there. I think they get a lot of support off the field. And they've got people to turn to if they are having any difficulties. So I think that's really good. And England actually had a record of young players or new players coming into the environment and doing quite well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what they realise now, which perhaps they didn't in the 90s, and this is kind of a reflection on society generally, but is that everybody's different. Everybody reacts to different motivation. Everyone reacts to different ways of critiquing their performance. And I think back in the 90s, whether it was in regards to sport or mental health or whatever it may be, it was very much a blanket kind of thing. Everybody was kind of dealt with in the same way. Whereas these days, I think the players are treated as individuals, which helps them settle into the side, as you said. So yeah, you also, you've, like you mentioned, you've done some coaching with England, with the England Lions, with the England team. I'd like to think, as an England fan, that door isn't shut. Is cricket coaching still something you've got a passion for, and something that you would like to do in the future?
Yeah, I look, I really enjoyed my time. I wasn't sure what I was going to do when I retired in 2012, and Graham Thorpe gave me a call and said I would like to do some coaching with England under-17s, and I didn't want to drop into coaching for the wrong reasons, i.e. that I had nothing else to do. But I went along, and I really enjoyed it. You very quickly realise that your career's over. You're an old codger now, and you're working with the guys in front of you, and it was really, I found it really rewarding, you know, when you feel that you can help some of these younger guys who have got their careers ahead of them. You know, they've had a real energy and enthusiasm to them. And, you know, you draw on your own experiences, of course, as a coach, to hopefully help guide and advise. But at the same time, you know, as a coach, you've got to be open-minded, because you know, you never stop learning. And of course, the game itself has continued to evolve very, very quickly, especially with the prevalence of T20. So I really enjoyed the coaching, and the doors opened, and I did England Lions, and then the first team, and worked with Peter Moores, and then Trevor Bayliss. So that was fantastic. I've gained a lot of experience from that. I would like a role with a little bit more responsibility, so something like you know, a head coach role would have been really nice to do. However, you know, I went for a couple of interviews, and unfortunately, you know, it didn't quite happen. So I took on this role with Harrow School, and that has given me a little bit of stability, and it also leaves me some time free to do other bits and pieces, you know, so cricket events with the Players Cricket Association, or any media work that's perhaps going, which I enjoy. But if there were an opportunity in the future, then I'd certainly look closely at it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it would be a shame to not, you know, use your knowledge and experience, as we mentioned your record before. And I think, as you said about like we said about the media and things like that, I think, you know, if you're able to pass on that knowledge to these younger players who have not only got the traditional forms of media critiquing their poor appearance, but they've also got thousands of know-it-all cricket fans like myself critiquing their performance, every ball, and of course every second of every game pretty much is broadcast on TV and radio.
Yeah.
So it's a difficult time for young players. Okay, just to finish off, you mentioned T20 cricket and evolution. Really, you did a bit with the Euro T20 Slam. Is that in 2019? Is that with Edinburgh Rocks? Were you the coach or head coach of that franchise?
I was made head coach of that one. Unfortunately, the tournament didn't go ahead.
Right, okay. That's why I couldn't find anything further about it.
Yeah, that's right. It was amazing, because we had a very professional auction at Heathrow Airport, and you know, it was very well done. It was all covered on TV, and we had some very good names involved in the tournament. But unfortunately, it didn't go ahead. So there have been some tournaments like that where backers have sort of, you know, people have come along and said, look, you know, they want to do this tournament, but the money hasn't been forthcoming, and it's been a little bit of an issue actually for a few cricketers around the world, that you know, sometimes things are promised and then not delivered. So unfortunately, that tournament didn't go ahead. But you mentioned T20 tournaments. Of course, there are many successful ones all over the globe, and you know, I think right now, you know, a bit of an issue that is there globally is that you know, the glitz and razzmatazz and the money of T20 is making a lot of young players, you know, that's what they want to do, that's what they want to gravitate to, and you know, I really fear for the future of Test cricket, to be honest. I mean, what I grew up on was very much the longer format, and the reason was because it was accepted by everyone as the real examination of you as a player. because you have to produce your skills over a long period of time consistently. Whereas now with T20, you can literally, if you get 20 off 10 balls, you've had a great night. If you bowl, you can go hit. Bowlers can get hit for a couple of sixes, but if they bowl a couple of slower balls or take a couple of wickets, they're quite happy. Full houses, lots of money, and so the whole cricket landscape has changed, and we're going to see that as well next year with the launch of the 100 in England. So I do think that is detracting from people's longer format skills, and we have less people who really seem to want to excel at Test cricket.